Imagine standing at the edge of a river delta so vast and fertile that the ancients called it the granary of the south. The Godavari and the Krishna, two of India's mightiest rivers, pour themselves into the Bay of Bengal here, spreading across a flat, lush coastal plain that has been farmed continuously for over 2000 years. The paddy fields stretch to the horizon, a thousand shades of green, broken only by the white spires of temple gopurams, rising from the earth like exclamation marks. Now shift your eye westward. The land rises, the eastern ghats roll in, ancient, worn-down hills covered in dry, deciduous forest. And somewhere in those hills, tucked into 7 peaks above the plains, is a single temple. A temple that receives more human visitors every single day than any other religious site on the planet. 100,000 people every day to one temple in one state. Welcome to Andhra Pradesh. It will surprise you more than you think. Namaskaram and welcome to Around India in half an hour. I'm Ray and this is finally episode 1, our first state, the first stop on what is going to be a long, extraordinary journey through every corner of this country. And we begin in the southeast, on the Bay of Bengal in Andhra Pradesh. If you asked most people outside South India what they know about Andhra Pradesh, you'd probably get a few things. Tirupati temple, very spicy food, something about a bifurcation, and maybe Telugu cinema. And all of that is true. But Andhra Pradesh is so much more than its greatest hits. It is a state with a history stretching back to the Satavahana Empire. A coastline that stretches further than most people realize, a classical dance form that is recognized by UNESCO, a cuisine that will make your eyes water in the best possible way, and a language, Telugu, that has been called the Italian of the East for the sheer musicality of its vowels. Today we spend half an hour really getting to know this state. By the end of it, Andhra Pradesh will feel like a place you've been, not just a name you've heard. So let's go. Andhra Pradesh is the 7th largest state in India by area, covering about 163,000 square kilometers. To put that in perspective, that's larger than Greece, larger than England, larger than most countries in the world. It sits on India's southeastern coast, facing the Bay of Bengal, with a coastline that stretches for nearly 975 kilometers, the second largest coastline by any Indian state after Gujarat. The geography of Andhra Pradesh divides neatly into 3 distinct zones, each with its own character. The first is the coast, the long, sandy, often beautiful Bay of Bengal shoreline. This is where the great port city of Visakhapatnam sits. Vizag, as everyone calls it, backed by the Kailasagiri hills and opening onto wide beaches that catch the full force of the bay. The coast here is occasionally dramatic, fishing villages, rugged headlands, harbor views, but mostly it is flat, wide, and generously sandy. This coastline has been a trading coast for over 2000 years. Roman coins have been found in the silt over these river deltas. The ancient port of Masulipatnam was one of the most important trade harbors in early medieval India. The second zone is the river delta country, and this is the heart of Andhra Pradesh. The Godavari in the north and the Krishna in the center are two of the great rivers of peninsular India. And where they meet the sea, they have built up a vast alluvial delta of extraordinary fertility. This is the rice bowl of South India. The fields here are so intensively cultivated, so perfectly green, so threaded through with irrigation channels that from the air they look like a living quilt. Andhra Pradesh produces more rice than almost any other state in India. It is a landscape shaped entirely by agriculture, by water, by the slow, patient work of farmers across thousands of years. The Godavari also cuts through something spectacular on its way to the sea, the Papikondalu Range, where the river has carved a series of narrow gorges through the eastern Ghats. Boat rides through the Papikondalu Gorge are one of the great natural experiences of Andhra Pradesh. Steep forested hillsides plunging straight into the river, the water rushing green and fast between walls of rock. The third zone is Rayalaseema, the southern inland region, drier, harder, more austere than the lush coast. Rayalaseema is a land of red earth, scrub forest, rocky outcrops, and a fierce, proud identity. The people here will tell you correctly that they are different from coastal Andhra in temperament, in cuisine, in culture. The region gave India some of its greatest freedom fighters and some of its complex political histories. It is also where Tirupati sits, in the Chittoor district at the foot of the Tirumala hills. And speaking of Tirumala, those seven hills, the Seshachalam range, rising to about 850 meters above sea level, green and forested, with the ancient town of Tirupati at their base. They are not dramatic mountains. They are old, rounded, covered in trees, but they carry a weight of faith that is almost tangible. Andhra Pradesh shares borders with five other states, and each relationship tells you something about the state's identity. To the north is Odisha, where the coastline continues and the tribal belts of the eastern Ghats cross state boundaries. The northern districts of Andhra Pradesh, Srikakulam and Vijayanagaram, feel culturally close to Odisha in some ways, with their own distinct folk traditions and tribal communities. To the northwest is Chhattisgarh, a reminder that Andhra Pradesh reaches surprisingly far into the interior of India. To the west is Telangana, the state's most politically charged border. Telangana was part of Andhra Pradesh until 2014, when it was carved out to become India's 29th state, following a long and often painful movement for separate statehood. The bifurcation left Andhra Pradesh without its former capital, Hyderabad, a city now entirely within Telangana, and the state has been in the process of building a brand new capital, Amaravati, ever since. The relationship between the two Telugu-speaking states is complex. Shared language and culture, separate political identities, and ongoing disputes about water sharing from the Krishna and Godavari rivers. To the southwest is Karnataka, another southern neighbor with whom Andhra shares some cultural overlap, particularly in the Rayalaseema region. And to the south is Tamil Nadu, where Tirupati's pilgrims largely come from, where Carnatic music flows in both directions across the border, and where the cultural ties of South India bind two very different states in a common civilizational inheritance. Andhra Pradesh is one of the oldest continuously inhabited regions of India. The name Andhra itself appears in the Atreya Brahmana, one of the oldest Sanskrit texts, which mentions the Andhra people as a distinct community living to the south. That's over 3,000 years of recorded identity. For a people to have a name this old is extraordinary. The first great empire to emerge from this soil was the Satavahana dynasty, which rose to power around the 2nd century BCE after the decline of the Mauryan Empire. The Satavahanas were remarkable rulers. They built a vast empire stretching from the east coast to the west coast of India, controlled crucial Silk Road trade routes, and made the ancient city of Amravati one of the great Buddhist centers of the ancient world. The Amravati Stupa, built under Satavahana patronage, was one of the largest and most elaborate Buddhist monuments ever constructed in India. Its carved marble panels depicted the life of the Buddha with a grace and naturalism that stands comparison with anything from the ancient world. Buddhism flourished across what is now Andhra Pradesh for several centuries. The site of Nagarjunakonda, now partly submerged beneath the Nagarjuna Sagar reservoir, was an important center of Buddhist learning, named after the great Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, who lived and taught here in the 2nd century BCE. Nagarjuna's philosophical contributions to Mahayana Buddhism are so foundational that he is sometimes called the second Buddha. He came from this soil. After the Satavahanas came a succession of dynasties: the Pallavas, the Chalukyas, the Rashtrakutas, each leaving their mark on the landscape through temples, inscriptions, and art. Then came the Kakatiya in the 12th and 13th centuries, a Telugu kingdom that made the city of Warangal, now in Telangana, their capital, but whose cultural and architectural influence extended deep into what is now Andhra Pradesh. The Kakatiyas were great builders. Their thousand-pillar temple, their lake engineering works, their patronage of Telugu literature, all of these shaped a Telugu cultural identity that endures to this day. The greatest chapter in Andhra's medieval history is the Vijayanagara Empire. Founded in 1336 on the banks of the Tungabhadra river just across the modern border of Karnataka, the Vijayanagara Empire was the last great Hindu empire of South India. At its height, in the 15th and 16th centuries, it was one of the wealthiest empires in the world. The capital Hampi was described by foreign visitors as larger than Rome. Telugu language and literature flourished under Vijayanagara patronage. The great Telugu poet Allasani Peddana, called the grandfather of Telugu poetry, wrote his masterwork Manu Charitra at the court of the Vijayanagara king Krishna Devaraya. Krishna Devaraya himself was a poet in Telugu and Sanskrit. One of the few rulers in world history who was also a literary giant. The Lepakshi temple complex in Anantapur district, with its extraordinary Vijayanagara era murals and the famous hanging pillar, is a direct legacy of this empire. The Vijayanagara Empire fell in 1565 at the Battle of Tallikota, defeated by a coalition of Deccan sultanates. What followed was a gradual transition to the Mughal influence, and then, over the 17th and 18th centuries, the arrival of the Europeans. The British East India Company established one of its earliest trading ports in India at Masulipatnam on the Andhra coast in 1611. By the 19th century, the British had consolidated control over most of what they called the Madras Presidency, which included present-day Andhra Pradesh. The freedom struggle had powerful roots here. Alluri Sitaramma Raju, known as Manyam Veeradu, the hero of the forests, led a tribal uprising against the British in the Rampa region in the early 1920s. Using guerrilla tactics that earned him the nickname the Robin Hood of the Eastern Ghats. He was captured and shot by the British in 1924, aged just 27. He remains one of the greatest heroes of Telugu-speaking people. Potti Sri Ramalu is another towering figure. He fasted unto death in 1952 to demand a separate state for Telugu-speaking people. His sacrifice directly led to the creation of Andhra state in 1953, the first state in India to be formed on linguistic lines. His death and its political consequences changed the map of modern India. Pingali Venkayya, a man from Andhra Pradesh, designed the Indian national flag, the tricolor with the Ashoka Chakra that flies across the country, that appears on every government document, that flutters from the Red Fort on Independence Day, was created by a Telugu man from Machilipatnam. That is not a small thing. In 2014, the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh led to the creation of Telangana. It was a painful separation, and the state is still in many ways adjusting to its new identity, building a new capital, redistributing institutions, forging a post-bifurcation sense of itself. But Andhra Pradesh's resilience is considerable, and its story is far from complete. Andhra Pradesh today has a population of around 54 million people, the 10th most populous state in India. The capital is Amaravati, an ambitious new capital city being built on the banks of the Krishna River, designed to be a world-class greenfield city. Construction has been ongoing with varying momentum across different governments, but the vision is extraordinary. A city that blends modernity with the ancient heritage of its namesake, the great Buddhist stupa city of antiquity. The largest city is Vishakhapatnam, Vizag, a bustling port city of over 2 million people, simultaneously a major industrial hub with steel plants and a naval base, and a beach city with some genuinely beautiful stretches of coast. Vijayawada is the commercial heart of the state, frenetic, energetic, sprawling along the Krishna River. The economy of Andhra Pradesh is one of the fastest growing in India. Agriculture remains a backbone. Rice, sugarcane, tobacco, cotton, chilies, and aquaculture are major industries. The state is one of India's largest producers of shrimp and fish. The pharmaceutical industry is a major employer, particularly around Vishakhapatnam. Andhra Pradesh is also becoming increasingly important in renewable energy. It has vast potential for solar and wind power and has been aggressively building out capacity. Telugu, written in its own beautiful script, spoken with a distinctive musicality, is the official language and mother tongue of the vast majority of people. It is one of the great classical languages of India, with a literary tradition stretching back over 1,000 years. The state has given India and the world A truly extraordinary roster of people. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, born in 1888 in Tiruthanni, in now Andhra Tamil Nadu border region, he became one of the most celebrated philosophers of the 20th century, a professor at Oxford, a brilliant interpreter of Indian philosophy to the Western world, the first vice president of India, and then its second president. His birthday, September 5th, is celebrated across India as Teachers' Day. When students wanted to celebrate his birthday, he told them, "Don't celebrate me, celebrate teachers." This is the kind of man he was. Pingali Venkaiah, farmer, linguist, freedom fighter, and the man who designed India's national flag. Born in 1876 in the Krishna district, he spent years studying flags of different nations before presenting his design to Mahatma Gandhi. The flag you see today, saffron, white and green with the navy blue Ashoka Chakra at its center, is his creation. P.V. Narasimha Rao, Prime Minister of India from 1991 to 1996, from the Karimnagar region that was then part of Andhra Pradesh. He is arguably one of the most consequential prime ministers in Indian history. It was under his government, working alongside Finance Minister Manmohan Singh, that India liberalized its economy, opening up to the world in ways that transformed the country. Modern India's economic trajectory owes an enormous debt to Narasimha Rao. S.P. Balasubramaniam, known universally as SPB or Balu, born in 1946 in Nellore district, he was quite simply one of the greatest playback singers in the history of Indian cinema. Over a career spanning 5 decades, he sang over 40,000 songs in Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Hindi, Malayalam, and more. He holds a Guinness World Record for the most songs recorded by a singer. His voice, warm, supple, capable of heartbreak and joy with equal ease, defined the sound of South Indian cinema for generations. He passed away in September 2020, and the grief across South India was profound and genuine. He was more than a singer, he was a cultural institution. P.V. Sindhu, the greatest Indian female badminton player in history, born in 1995 in Hyderabad to parents who were both national level volleyball players. She won silver at the 2016 Rio Olympics, becoming the first Indian woman to win an Olympic silver medal. She won gold at the 2019 BWF World Championships. She carries herself with a quiet authority that makes every match feel significant. She is not just a champion, she is an inspiration for millions of girls across India. Alluri Sitarama Raju, the hero of the forest. Born around 1897, he led the Rampa Rebellion of 1922 to 1924 against British rule, fighting for the rights of tribal communities whose forests and livelihoods were being destroyed by colonial policies. He was captured and executed at age 27. Today, he is immortalized. His face on murals, his name on roads, his story retold in cinema and legend across Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh has one of the most distinctive and most fiercely loved culinary traditions in India. Let me be direct with you. Andhra food is among the spiciest in the country. Not spicy as a novelty or as a performance, spicy as a philosophy, spicy as a way of life. The reason comes partly from geography. Andhra Pradesh is one of India's largest producers of red chilies, particularly the famous Guntur Sanam chili, which has a GI tag and is exported around the world. This chili has an intense, sharp heat and a deep red color, and it goes into almost everything. It is ground into powders, made into paste, fried in oil until it crackles and darkens, and added in quantities that would alarm a first-time visitor and delight anyone who has grown up eating this way. The centerpiece of an Andhra meal is the Andhra thali, a banana leaf spread with rice, dal, two or three vegetable preparations, sambar, rasam, curd, pickle, and papad. The rasam here is thin and sharp, almost sour, designed to cut through the richness of everything else. The vegetable preparations might include a dry stir fry, a wet curry, a lentil dish. It is eaten with hand, mixed with rice in the traditional South Indian way. Every element interacts with every other element. It is, when eaten right, a complete and deeply satisfying experience. But the one ingredient that defines Andhra cooking above all others is gongura. Sorrel leaves, sour and bright, used in chutneys, in rice, in meat curries, in dal. Gongura pachadi, a tangy, slightly fermented sorrel chutney, is so fundamental to Andhra identity that people joke about Andhra people carrying it everywhere they travel. Gongura mutton is one of the great meat dishes of South India. The tartness of the leaves cutting through the richness of the meat in a way that is genuinely thrilling. Pesaratu dosa, a dosa made from whole grain moong dal, slightly crisp at the edges, softer in the center, served with ginger chutney and sometimes stuffed with upma. It is the classic Andhra breakfast and one of the most underrated dishes in all of Indian cuisine. Pulihora, tamarind rice made with a complex tempering of mustard seeds, curry leaves, dried red chilies, and peanuts, mixed through rice with a generous amount of tamarind paste. It is simultaneously simple and complex, and it is the dish most associated with Andhra temples, offered as prasadam, sacred food, at temples across the state. Avakaya, raw mango pickle. Andhra's avakaya is legendary across India. Chunks of sour raw mango mixed with red chili powder, mustard powder, and salt, preserved in sesame oil. Every Andhra household has its own recipe, passed down through generations. Arguments about whose mother makes the best avakaya are practically a state sport. And then there is the Tirupati Laddu, perhaps the most famous prasadam in India, made from chickpea, flour, sugar, ghee, cashews, and raisins. It is prepared in the Tirumala temple kitchens in enormous quantities, around 100,000 laddus every single day, and given to every pilgrim who receives darshan. It has a GI tag, which means only the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanams can make and sell it officially. Millions of people have carried this laddu home as a blessing. It tastes of devotion. Tirumala Venkateshwara temple at the top of the Tirumala hills near Tirupati. This is the wealthiest and the most visited Hindu temple on earth, dedicated to Lord Venkateshwara, an incarnation of Vishnu. The temple dates back at least to the 4th century BCE, though it has been built and rebuilt many times. It receives around 25 million pilgrims every year. On an average day, 60,000 to 100,000 people make the journey up the hill, by road, by special buses, or on foot along ancient pilgrims' paths through the forest. The temple's endowment trust manages assets estimated at over 30 billion US dollars, making it an institution of extraordinary scale. The experience of being in the inner sanctum, the air thick with camphor and incense, the sound of bells and prayers, the press of thousands of devotees is unlike anything else in India. Amravati, the ancient Buddhist site on the Krishna River, not to be confused with the new capital also called Amravati nearby. The ancient Amravati Stupa is one of the most important Buddhist archaeological sites in India, a massive circular structure whose carved marble panels now distributed across museums in Chennai and London depict scenes from Buddha's life with extraordinary artistry. This was a great city. Standing at the site today, in a quiet field by the river, it requires imagination, but the imagination is well rewarded. Vishakhapatnam, Vizag, offers a genuinely beautiful combination of beaches, hills, and urban energy. Rishikonda Beach is wide and clean. Kailasagiri Hill Park gives panoramic views over the city and the Bay of Bengal. The submarine museum, built around an actual decommissioned Indian Navy submarine, is unlike anything else in India. And the city's food scene, particularly the seafood, is exceptional. Araku Valley in the Eastern Ghats above Vizag, this high altitude valley is a revelation. Cooler, greener, dramatically beautiful, it is home to tribal communities who have farmed coffee here for generations. Araku coffee has become internationally acclaimed in recent years, delicate, bright, with a complexity that rivals the best South Indian coffees. The journey to Araku on the famous Vishakhapatnam Kirandul railway line, climbing through tunnels and across viaducts in the hills, is one of the great scenic train journeys in India. Lepakshi in the Anantpur district, this small village contains a temple complex that is one of the finest examples of Vijayanagara era architecture in existence. The Veerabhadra temple has extraordinary painted ceilings, vivid, remarkably well preserved frescoes from the 16th century depicting scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. And then there is the hanging pillar, one of the 70 pillars in the temple. This one does not rest fully on the ground. You can pass a piece of cloth under it. Nobody fully understands why it was built this way. It has been standing for 500 years. Bora Caves in the Anantgiri Hills near Vizag. These are among the largest stalactite and stalagmite caves in India. Ancient, cathedral-like, lit in dramatic colors, they were discovered by a British geologist in 1807. Local tribal communities have worshipped at the natural Shivalingam inside the cave for centuries. Srisailam, deep in the Nallamala forest, on a steep plateau above the Krishna River gorge, sits one of the 12 Jyotirlinga temples of India, some of the holiest Shiva shrines in the country. The setting is extraordinary. forest on all sides, the river far below, the temple ancient and powerful. Andhra Pradesh is the birthplace of Kuchipudi, one of India's 8 classical dance forms, and arguably the most theatrically rich of them all. Named after the village of Kuchipudi in Krishna district, where it originated, this dance tradition dates back to the 17th century. The Saint Siddhendra Yogi is credited with systemizing the form, training male Brahmin dancers to perform all roles, including female ones, in elaborate dance dramas based on Hindu mythology. Kuchipudi is distinctive for its dramatic expressiveness. The use of the face, the eyes, the hands in mudras, the swift footwork, the narrative storytelling, a performance of the Bhamakalapam, the story of Satyabhama's jealousy by a master Kuchipudi dancer is one of the great theatrical experiences of South India. The form is now performed in its traditional narrative style and in purely dance-based compositions, and it has spread from its village origins to stages around the world. Carnatic music, the classical music of South India, flows deeply through Andhra Pradesh. The state has produced extraordinary Carnatic musicians and composers. The great trinity of Carnatic music, Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, and Syama Shastri, were all from the broader Telugu and Tamil cultural sphere, and their compositions are sung in Telugu and Sanskrit to this day at concerts and in temples across Andhra Pradesh. Telugu literature is one of India's great classical literary traditions. The language has been spoken and written for over 1,000 years. The 11th century poet Nanaya is considered the Adikavi, the first poet of Telugu literature, having translated the Mahabharata into Telugu. The literary tradition that followed is rich, diverse, and deeply alive. The Kalamkari textile tradition, hand-painted fabrics using natural dyes and a kalam or pen, is one of the great craft traditions of Andhra Pradesh. Two distinct styles exist. The Sri Kalahasti style, which uses purely hand-drawn motifs, and the Machilipatnam style, which uses block printing. The imagery is drawn from Hindu mythology, scenes from Ramayana, figures of deities, elaborate borders of flowers and birds. A fine kalamkari piece takes days to create and is both a textile and a painting. Kondapalli toys, brightly painted wooden figures carved from a soft local wood called Telaponiki in the village of Kondapalli near Vijayawada are among the most charming craft traditions in India. Elephants, bullock carts, village scenes, mythological features painted in vivid colors. These toys have been made for centuries and are sold across India and internationally. Andhra Pradesh celebrates all the major Hindu festivals, but a few deserve special mention. Ugadi, the Telugu New Year, celebrated in March or April at the start of the lunar month of Chaitra. It is welcomed with new clothes, a special dish called Ugadi Pachadi, which contains 6 tastes representing the different experiences of life: sweet, sour, bitter, salty, spicy, and astringent. And the recitation of Panchangam, the almanac for the coming year. Ugadi is moment of renewal and contemplation. Sankranti, the harvest festival in January, one of the most important festivals of the Telugu calendar. For 3 days, the state is alive with kite flying, the preparation of special sweets, the lighting of bonfires, and the decoration of cattle who are bathed, painted, and garlanded in gratitude for their work throughout the year. Sankranti is joyful, communal, and deeply rooted in the agrarian life of the Delta. Brahmotsavam at Tirumala, a 9-day festival at the Venkateshwara temple, considered one of the most important Vaishnava festivals in South India. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims converge on Tirupati. The deity is taken out in a procession on different vahanas, divine vehicles each day. The atmosphere is one of collective devotion on a scale that is almost overwhelming. Andhra Pradesh has a passionate cricket culture, producing players of national distinction over the decades. PV Sindhu is the state's greatest sporting icon of recent times. Her Olympic and World Championship medals have made her a household name across India, not just in Andhra Pradesh. Badminton is now one of the most popular sports in the state, with a strong tradition of producing top level players. Kabaddi remains a grassroots favorite, particularly in rural areas. Wrestling, athletics, and volleyball also have deep roots in the state's sporting culture. People who visit Andhra Pradesh for the first time, particularly those who arrive for Tirupati and end up spending more time in the state, are almost always surprised. They expect temples and they find temples. Yes, but they also find beaches they weren't expecting, a cuisine more complex than just spicy, a classical dance tradition of genuine beauty, and a people whose warmth and directness can catch you off guard. Andhra hospitality is well known within India. There is a saying that an Andhra household will always feed you, whether or not you were expected. The culture around food, the elaborate thali, the insistence on serving more, the genuine distress if you don't eat enough is real and it is generous. What Andhra Pradesh most wants the world to understand is that it is not simply a corridor to Tirupati. It is a state with a 2000-year-old literary tradition in one of the world's most musical languages. It is a state where the man who designed India's national flag was a farmer's son, where one of India's most consequential prime ministers came from, where a dance form of such beauty and theatrical power that it has captivated audiences worldwide was born in a village no bigger than a few streets. It is the state of Gongura and the Godavari, of Kuchipudi and Carnatic music, of temple bells at dawn and the smell of tamarind and red chili and sesame oil. Come hungry, come curious, come ready to be surprised. Andhra Pradesh, everybody. If I've done my job today, you'll leave this episode knowing what the first thing this state will do every time without fail is feed you something that makes you reach for water, wipe your eyes, and then reach for more. And that is a very good metaphor for everything about Andhra Pradesh. It is intense, it is generous, and it leaves a mark. Next Tuesday, we travel north along the alphabet all the way to the northeastern corner of India, to Arunachal Pradesh. the land of the dawn-lit mountains. A state so remote, so dramatically beautiful, so extraordinarily biodiverse, and home to so many distinct tribal cultures that it barely seems like one state at all. We'll talk about the McMahon line, about over 26 major tribes and their languages, about the great Brahmaputra river in its wild upper reaches, and about a landscape where you can walk through cloud forest, alpine meadow, and subtropical jungle all in a single day. That's next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Be there. I'm Ray. We've been to Andhra Pradesh. One down and a lot more to go.